Okay, 1 minute to go. Whenever you're ready, Bob, you can send us up.
Yeah, we're out on YouTube.
Can you put us on a split screen for me and Ruth?
You're watching HCAM TV.
Hello, this is Cheryl Peralt, and I'm here tonight for Friday Night Wake Up Call. This is a program been happening through HCAM TV and Hopkinton since the start of the pandemic quarantine. And I say in advance, thanks to Matt Clark and Bob Hamilton, who are here tonight as crew, making it possible. And I have 4 guests with me to talk this evening in 15-minute intervals. So I have to be very ambitious and on time. Before we get started, I would just like to let folks know I've been keeping an update on my father, who watches every program regularly. He's out of the hospital and he's doing better. Hi, Dad. And now I would like to go and move on to the topic of mentors, which I thought would be interesting for this week, thinking about my own involvement in the arts for the last 20 years and some of the people near and dear to me who have guided me in different ways of poetry, story, and song. And not only as an artist myself, but also for community, many others that they have inspired as well. And I think this is a good time to talk about that, where we have all been in quarantine and thinking about life and art and community in different ways. So we are starting tonight with Ruth Edmonds Hill. Ruth, hello, how are you?
Good. Yep.
So interestingly, as I found out about Ruth's availability on Zoom the past week or so, Ruth has been able to use her voice with Zoom, but unfortunately not her camera. So we won't be able to see her. And I was hoping we could get an image up, but that is also based on Ruth's profile page. Ruth?
I have no idea what that means.
Okay. All right. Well, we're figuring out Zoom between us this week, right?
Yes.
Yes. And so you are here representing storytelling, the world of storytelling from your life and all you have done for people, including me. And I'll just tell folks libraries through your life. First of all, in Massachusetts at Harvard, Yale, Bennington, and the list goes on. And you've been working at Schlesinger Library since 1977?
Yes. Working on oral history.
Oral history.
Yes.
That's right. And in particular, the oral history of women, right? Who had worked on the Black Women Oral History Project in 1977. And I have Federal Government Oral History in 1981, Cambodian American Women's Oral History Project from 1987 to 93, Latino women's oral history, 1989, and more. The
Yeah,
Chinese American Women Oral History Project.
I've been working on a Chinese American one recently. Yes.
Yes,
Mm.
most recently.
Mm.
So you have a very large bio, and I found it, one of your bios today on the History Makers
Oh,
website.
yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I learned new information about you, Ruth, on there.
Well, I
And
need to look that up. The history makers, they came to my office and interviewed me, but I never had followed up to see what they actually put out there. Yeah, so good. Hmm.
yeah, well, it shows that you have lived quite a remarkable life. And most recently, you received the Harvard Hero Award over at Harvard University in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
What I'll say is that last year I was going to Story Space with you in Somerville, and it was a very hot day in summer. And we were at a restaurant before we went, and it was so hot, and I think you had maybe a few layers of clothing on. And I said to you, "Aren't you hot?" And you said, "Well, I just don't think about it." And that stayed with me, Ruth. And recently, I was asking you about how are you doing in the pandemic. You've been going to work over at the library since 77, and every day, 4 days a week, half day recently.
Yeah, yes. Well, I'm trying to work from home. They gave me a computer, but it doesn't seem to work, and so there's not much I can do. So I haven't really done any real quote unquote work from home.
But you, same response when I asked you how you're doing in the pandemic, and you were just telling you how you make it work in your apartment on your own there. Do you have
Yeah.
what would you say you're doing these days?
What am I doing? Doing lots of, I know I shouldn't say this, but email I'm on, seems to be on everything. So I'm doing delete, delete, delete. And
Good idea.
in the evenings, every evening, I watch the Metropolitan Opera. So it's an interesting contrast.
Mm-hmm. You're you- you're you're learning just like always, and you are making it work. You're getting through, and you, to me, are a mentor in resilience and fortitude, and a persistence, and also making the most of each day.
Well, I have a lot of reading to do, which I haven't gotten to yet. But I'm on one of the committee members of the Oral History Association Book Award. And so I think I have 10 books to read. And so things can keep coming in till the beginning of July. So we'll see there's some interesting things. One on ethnomusicology and one on a brewery in Britain and the history of it. And just a great variety. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, I know how you love to read, and that makes sense with all the work you've done in the libraries.
Mm.
So best wishes on that. And how about for oral histories? You have told this line in your life of spending so much time, commitment in daily life to oral history, in particular of women, as well as storytelling.
Hmm.
People's stories mean a lot to you since way back in time.
Way back. And I don't know how many people know that way back means that I was involved with a man named Brother Blue.
Yes, yes. Uh-huh. And you met Brother Blue, and then all of your work in oral history archives and at libraries, then
They fit together. Yeah.
they fit together, and they bloomed in a new direction where people's life stories were being told on sidewalks and prisons and open mics and all of the places in Cambridge and beyond, right? You traveled around the world in sharing stories with Brother Blue.
Yes. When I say around the world, I've been to Sweden and Russia and England, Ireland, different places. Just having that opportunity was so great, which would not have happened if I'd just been quote unquote me. But having that connection with Brother Blue made a big difference in my life.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. It was a really special intersection with the two of you, and you are so beloved and highly spoken of in storytelling, poetry, the arts, all different communities.
Yeah.
The-
Oh, I just realized it came in the mail yesterday or the day before, but the Nest used to be Lane's League for Advancement of New England Storytelling, but they have a Brother Blue and Ruth Hill Award, and so they announced who that's going to be. So that I'm going to try to get to the meeting online just so that I'll be there. So
That will be
I
award
don't know
for you and
whether
Brother Blue.
the whole world knows yet or whether whether it'll be announced, but they let me know anyway who's going to get it. Mm.
Well, wonderful. Congratulations.
Yeah.
So there's always something happening. And I wonder if there are a few moments that you can think of in all your years with Brother Blue and making stories come alive in different places that you would like to speak about.
Mm. Well, I guess one of the most interesting ones was going to St. Petersburg, Russia. And it came about with a man who was a visiting scholar over in New York State. But for some reason, he came to Cambridge, and there was Brother Blue outdoors at Harvard Square telling stories. And the man spoke to us, and I found out who he was. And so we've kept in touch all these years. So it would have been a long time ago, but we still connect with Russian Orthodox Easter and different kinds of things, birthdays. And so that was you just never know what's going to happen in your life and the direction it's going to take. And people often say, what is your purpose? And I think, I don't know. I just wait and see what's happening and say yes or no to it and don't worry about what is my quote unquote purpose.
Yeah.
So I have no idea what my purpose in life is, but it's just
Well,
it's been an interesting path, shall we say.
yeah. Always an adventure, right?
Yes, yes.
Well, I know one of the things along your life path was you put together this book, Women of Courage, also, in addition to the storytelling world that you
Yes, because
walk.
that's the photographs of the women who were in the Black Women Oral History Project at Schlesinger Library, Radcliffe. Yes, yes. So and
Yeah. Well, it's
so
quite a
everybody was in
beautiful
it.
book.
But it's
Yes.
wonderful to read a little bit about each person. Yes, so a great
Well,
variety of women too. Yes,
that's right. And even
which is what I liked.
your mother is in there as well, correct?
Yes, yes, yes. And that
Uh-huh.
just came about in such an odd way. It never occurred to me that she should be interviewed, but we had a business meeting and I would send out names of different people. So I put her on the list. And this happened to be a meeting in person. And after we had gone by, someone came, one of the women on the committee said, well, what's your maiden name? And so I admitted what my maiden name was. And so they said, oh, is this woman related to you? And I said, yes, she's my mother. But I didn't want to say, you should interview her. And as it turned out, I was finally the interviewer for her. So.
What a very special thing to have in this book. In addition, there's Rosa Parks and
Yes.
a number of other women. And I love the title that you have at the beginning, Shapers of a Better Future. And so I thank you for that contribution, in addition to many others that you've had in providing open mics and different opportunities for people to share their stories, whether they're oral history at conferences or whether they are at Story Space or another storytelling venue. You continue to be beloved and admired for the deep work you do in getting people to listen and benefit from the stories we all have to share.
And so may I make one more comment?
Please do.
My great-grandfather, Reverend Samuel Harrison, he was chaplain of the Mass 54th Regiment. But in 1877, and self-published, an appeal of a colored man to, I forget exactly how it goes, but his fellow citizens of a fairer hue in the United States. And really, he's talking about the way things are going now and how even in the North, the politicians, government would not speak on behalf of the Black person. And it seems like things are happening in a way today with all these protests. And so I couldn't believe it when I saw that what he was already writing back in 1877. So
That's right. And that's your great-grandfather
yes,
making
yes,
that contribution. It's an important day to talk about that on Juneteenth
yes,
today.
yes.
And he has a museum, right? There's a
There
museum
was
of his
the house that he lived in way back, you know, a long time ago. But at one point, Brother Blue and I lived in it, and then it passed on to different family members. And I discovered that it was going to be torn down because a member of the family had not paid taxes, and I was able to approach the Massachusetts Historical Society and other people, and so we saved the house and has become the Samuel Harrison Museum. So I'm glad of that.
Yeah, well, I am too.
Mm.
And there's so much more to say, and believe it
But
or
we ain't
not, we
gonna
have
say it. We ain't gonna say it.
Well, do you have any
No. This is fine.
guiding advice?
Do I have what?
Any why do you think stories are important for our civilization, especially these days?
Well, it just seems to me that what would have happened if we opened our mouths and nothing came out of it? Stories were it. So, and just have carried us all along through all these many centuries and whatever period it is. It's just something that you can't help in a way. You just want to talk either about your life or something just happened. You just want to share. So, in that sense, stories are so important. Yes.
Well, that's I couldn't ask for a better answer. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for being my mentor and friend also, and to so many. I know that you are still learning and you're making things happen for other people to learn about the world of storytelling and oral history and beyond. So thank you so much, Ruth, even though we couldn't have your face.
I know. I'm sorry that we weren't able to do that. Yes, but thank you.
Wonderful to hear your voice, and I hope to see you soon.
We are planning on it.
All right. Okay, goodbye, Ruth.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you. And now I would like to invite my friend B.G. Thurston to join. Hi, B.G., do you have your sound on?
I think I have my sound on. I don't know if they've unmuted me.
You're good. I hear you. So,
okay. All I see is my bandwidth is low, so hopefully this works.
Oh, we better talk fast, okay? So you're coming from a farm out in Midwestern Massachusetts in the wilderness. And for folks who don't know you like I do, B.G. Thurston is a poet, an editor, a publisher, who has 2 books of poetry. Oh, I have them right here. We have Night Walking and we have Saving the Lamb. And so BG works on the farm there with different kinds of animals and beings, and writes there, and has made a number of opportunities for community to also experience writing poetry, working on their poetry, editing poetry, making books. You have been a mentor, an advisor, a teacher, a professor to many. And that included me along the way, which I'm very grateful. You gave me tutoring as I came into the world of poetry through storytelling and stand-up comedy first. So, and I've learned a great deal from you, and so have many others, BG. And so I wonder, what do poets out in the wilderness on a farm do in the middle of a pandemic?
Well, today we were moving a chicken coop, so I just came in from that.
All right. So, how's it been going for you?
That's what we do.
All right. And does that inspire your writing to be out there, do you think?
It inspires something, mostly aggravation, but
okay.
Writing is something that I usually do late at night. So I don't know. I guess you could do that anywhere, in a pandemic or on a farm or anywhere. But it is, I guess when you live out here and you have no neighbors and no people, you sort of get used to it. And whereas other people would think, oh, it must be so inspiring, for me, it's every day. And I almost have to go to where there's people to get inspired now, because there is no one out here.
Well, you are identified as writing about nature a great deal. Nature illumination, I think I read in one of your books. Has that been the course of your path of writing?
It actually started out writing about people, and it wasn't very successful doing that. So what I discovered was the more you look into nature, the more it illuminates what's going on in your life and in other people's lives. Somehow it echoes what you're really thinking. And so writing about people was not as successful, and writing about nature just seemed to open up a lot more discovery.
Yeah. Would you like to read a few poems, please? I know I requested a favorite, and I don't know if you had a few others.
I will. You had requested Sky Meadow, which actually is the first poem in a manuscript that I've just finished and have sent out. And the poem that you like is called Sky Meadow. We search all our days for a place called home, hoping that walls and windows will keep us safe inside. As our skin grows loose over our bones and our sight softens the landscape, we discover home might be hidden in a meadow amid murmurs of green and sun gold blossoms rising all around our feet. This will be the place we return to when we remember our lives, knowing the shelter that held us as the water blue sky came down with a peace that could hardly last. That's the first poem.
By my front door.
Thank you. The book is about the farm that we live on, and we purchased this farm in the year 2000. I found it on my way coming back from grad school, a residency at grad school, and I was driving the back roads and I came across this little farmhouse, and it had a for sale sign in front of it. And so I wrote the number down, but I didn't really think I would ever be able to find it again because I had just meandered to it. And long story long, and 6 months later, we actually purchased the farmhouse. And once we moved in, everyone, we don't have neighbors, but the people in town regaled us with tales that it was a cat house during Prohibition, and that it was built by Revolutionary War soldiers in 1770. So about 12 years ago, I started doing research on the house and tracing all of the owners who lived and all the people who lived here. And that's what the book is about. The first half deals with everything up to when we bought it. So I thought I would read a couple of poems from that period, if that's okay.
That's quite a bit of history you have there in those poems.
So the first poem is the farmer who lived here the longest. His name was Caleb Weeks. And this is a poem that was from 1805. And a lot of these poems, I sort of imagined what the people's lives would have been based on the history that I found about them. So this poem is Caleb Weeks, 1805. A good day was an acre plowed to plant potatoes and field corn. then lifting the harness and traces from the sorrel horse, leading him back to the dark barn as swallows settled down in their hidden nests on rafters above. One tin scoop of oats and several fat forkfuls of hay pitched from high in the mow. The summer smells of timothy grass mixing with sweat and manure. He pauses to lean against the door and watch another evening descend, takes a swig of cider from the flask tucked behind the slatted feed bin. For him, there is no better chapel than these weathered wooden walls, listening to the contented chorus of chewing from the animals he loves. There is a sweetness to this place, along with all the work and worry. He bows his head to ask for sons. And there were 4 generations of that family who lived in this house. And they lived here and farmed here until there were all the pandemics of viruses in the 1800s. And when the last generation, basically all the sons were killed off by different viruses, cholera, scarlet fever, and all those. And that's when the farm went out of the Weekes' ownership. And it went through several people and good times and bad times until right before the Depression, it was auctioned off and ended up a man, George, I'm trying to remember his last name. This man, George, bought it, and he hired a bunch of ladies who lived here. And he also had a house right on the state line. And so he put all the ladies over there. And when the police from Massachusetts would come, he would move them to New Hampshire. And when the New Hampshire police would come, he moved them back here. So I can read one poem from there, and then I don't know how much more time I have.
There's about
Let's
4
see.
minutes.
Okay. Prohibition, 1929. Night becomes a different country when the regulars drive up the road. Billy's black terrier starts to bark at each rap of knuckles on the door. Boots climb the narrow staircase. Rooms bloom with cabbage roses as the scent of sweet perfume mixes with sweat and moonshine. From downstairs come the sounds of cards shuffling, the old Victrola scratching out Louis Armstrong and L. Jolson's 78s. In 100 years, our names will be forgotten, but this house remains a witness to 13 years when the country meant to outlaw sin, but merely moved its purchase to the outskirts of a righteous town. So
You've been on quite a journey with this latest book project and the research, right?
you.
And the stories.
Yeah, it's been a ton of research. I have just a huge binder of research, and it's been quite a project, but I'm happy to say I think it's done. So, but is anything ever done? I don't know.
Why is at this interesting time in our world, why do you think it is important to go back and bring history into poetry and stories and songs?
I think it's the same as Ruth was saying, is that stories are really all we have to connect us to each other and to connect souls and to give support to each other. That's what poetry really does. It offers everyone's heart to everyone else. So I think it's important.
That's it. I like that way of looking at it. And you have made it happen not only for yourself with books of stories of moments in nature, but also for many other people like myself through the opportunity to write, to publish, and to read out as well orally. And do you have any other mentoring advice before we have to end? Because I see once again we're almost at the 15 minutes.
I think you went way beyond where I ever was, but and that makes me so happy, because you have mentored and helped so many people, and you continue to help me. And I think that's what people do, poets do. They should help each other. It's not a competition, it's a collaboration. So we all should help each other, you know, and not be competitive about it. So keep going, Cheryl.
Well, and your post-pandemic, because you've got grandchildren, your post-pandemic wish for the world, because I know how deeply you care through your poetry and all else of your being.
What would my wish be? I guess the wish would be for children to actually accept and support each other, even, you know, no matter what their color, no matter what their race or religion or whatever, because my grandchildren, they encounter things at school that breaks my heart sometimes, that people aren't accepting of each other. And I think that until we all can just be accepting, the world won't have much hope, you know, especially during these times of the pandemic, when it really is important for everyone to try to take care of everyone else and be safe. So
yeah,
I don't know if that answers the question.
Yes, that does. That is beautiful. Thank you, and well said. And we're at 7:30.
Thank you, Cheryl,
It's
for
great
having me.
to see you. I've missed you. So I look forward to hearing about your book.
Yeah, stay on at the end, and I'll show you the puppy.
Oh, that's right. You have the cutest puppy in the world. So I look forward to seeing it at the end, and have fun with your puppy too.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much too, BG. Goodbye.
Bye.
Cheryl, you're muted. Cheryl, you're muted.
Okay. There we go.
Thank you.
All right. I am moving on to Steve Rapson now, our third guest this evening, in talking about mentors that I know from my life and my experience in the arts in the last 20 years. And for so many other people, Steve Rapson, that is you. And I know you're with your family. It's a special day today.
Yes.
That you're joining us. 50th anniversary.
Indeed, it is.
Happy anniversary to you.
Thank you.
And for folks who don't know Steve, Steve, do you have 8 CDs as a singer-songwriter and guitarist? Yes.
I would say that's about right.
Uh-huh. And Steve is a visionary with his music making, composing, his guitar playing, his songwriting, prolific in his songwriting. He performs out in communities, and then he also makes magical events of sharing art happen for many, many other people. And Steve has also written, after becoming a solo performer himself, he wrote The Art of the Solo Performer, which I have here today. And his background was in communication management. And these days he, as his bio says, he lives sometimes in Jupiter and right now is in Winchendon with his family celebrating the 50th anniversary. And how does a singer-songwriter celebrate with family? You make a lot of music over there?
Well, I played them my new song, which is a risky thing to do because an artist, has to be careful about asking their family for affirmation. But it went over pretty well.
Would you like to share that one?
I am going to share that new song with you.
Would you like to do it now?
I lead me by the nose and I shall follow.
Okay.
So I wrote this song like couple of days ago. This is my second song in the last 2 years. And I'm a little unhappy about that because Ellen Schmidt was the person who got me into songwriting. And for years, her song group in Concord was monthly. And at each month, you had to have a song if you wanted to be at the song. You didn't really have to have a song, but I felt if I didn't have a song at the song group, then my homework was not done. And over the years, I averaged about 7 to 10 songs a year. And then Ellen's song group was no more. And we tried to keep it going by having people host at various places. I still do that, but most people don't. And it turns out that I am an other-directed person, and I'm unhappy about that. I would like to think that I am a inner-directed person. But if I don't have an assignment, I'm very happy to watch the sunrise and set. So the fact that I wrote this song is exactly the same. I have a mentor who is a businessman, a journalist for the Wall Street Journal in the past. And he sent me a email. He's a devout Catholic, and he's witnessing to me all the time. But he does it gently, and I don't mind. And the last thing he sent me was, he used the phrase, "a little bit of hope." And then he said, you know, that would be a good title for a song. And I felt that that was an assignment. So I wrote a song called Hope. And this is it. With a little bit of hope, let me start the song again, because I'm getting very old. Take two. When you're on your own, and the world is cold, facing the unknown, searching for that pot of gold. Surely rainbow's end must be getting close, maybe just around the bend, with a little bit of hope. With a little bit of hope, the robin sings his song, hoping that somebody hears and wants to sing along. With a little bit of hope, you open a new door. With hope you're not afraid. That's what hope is for. So when the road is all uphill and you think you cannot cope, you find you have the will. With a little bit of hope, with a little bit of hope, the robin sings a song, hoping that somebody hears and wants to sing along. With a little bit of hope, you open a new door. You find you're not afraid. That's what hope is for.
That's beautiful.
Thank
I'm glad
you.
you're writing songs, Steve. And when did you start writing songs, did you say?
I was 47 years old, or
47.
46, when I wrote my first song. And it was one of my best. I still play it.
Yeah.
Because the ratio is about 10 to 1. 10 songs for one good one. And I have to, that's about it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, well, I think there's probably a lot more than that, and you're being
You know what,
humble.
Cheryl? Someday I'll come to your house and force you to listen to all 100 of them. And you'd probably agree.
well,
Yeah,
that's
Steve, there's
good of
about
you.
10 good ones there.
Yeah. And why would you say songwriting is important for you, for the world, sharing them?
Yeah, I wish I had an uplifting answer to that. But,
Mhm.
you know, I wanted to belong to a club, and Ellen Schmidt's songwriting group was a club that I wanted to belong to. I'm a guitar player. I was in a band. I was a band leader for 20 years. And all I do is play other people's songs. And so the idea of actually composing a song and singing something that you created was very appealing. And so that's it. You know, I wanted to belong to a group, and that was the group I chose to be with, and I did what was required. I wrote songs.
All right, but you made so many opportunities happen for so many others through time. Mentoring, I know Katie Frassinelli was on a few weeks ago. She said that you provoked her to come up with her first song. You have guided people, you've given advice to people that has helped them to grow and push themselves in creative ways. You've given vision to people, myself included. Would I ever consider sharing poetry to guitar, which was, I don't know, I'd never thought about something like that. You just
Yeah.
recently made a Clouds video for Deborah Roche's beautiful song.
I did.
What
I'm retired. What else do I have to do? Dabble in
what
other
is
people's
that
stuff.
about? Why is that important? What have you made of people, other people?
You know, I like to be helpful.
Okay.
I have an uncle who's buried in Quincy, and he's a courtesy uncle, not a blood relative, and he's from a very wealthy Quincy family. And I lived in his house for 13 years. My aunt was living in the house, and my wife and I lived in the attic. We renovated it. So we used to go over to the cemetery and see the big monuments that the famous people in the family had. There's a point to this story. And in a little, square in the grass was this Dulcifer King was his name. He was the president of the bank in Quincy. And his epitaph was, he tried to be helpful. That's what it said on the little stone.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought, how about he was helpful? I mean, he tried to be helpful. I always thought was so pathetic. And I used to make fun of him to my aunt. So I like to be helpful. And now I understand why people say they tried to be helpful, because, my friend Don White and I have talked about mentoring, giving advice to other people, and he's actually advised me, you can never win. It's a losing game to give critique or advice to people, because, and I sort of agree with this. A friend of mine once said there's no such thing as constructive criticism. All criticism is destructive. And if you are going to be constructively critical to somebody, you have to stick around to rebuild what you've destroyed. And so I actually, I hate to be critiqued, truly, except at the song group with Ellen. We do it with Zoom now, and every time somebody hears a new song I've written, and they say, how about this, how about that, I'm like writing furiously, because it's fabulous to get somebody else's idea. And that's my long-winded answer of trying to be helpful.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. And I'll just say that you have been very helpful. Your little idea for me, kind of changed the course of my life. And I think that's what mentors can do. I want to ask you for the song that I requested.
Okay.
Never Been to Mexico, please.
Yeah, I wrote this song 3 years ago as a result of Ellen's songwriting group. And this song was stillborn. It came out in pieces 10 years ago and never lived. The last song group at Ellen's are somewhere. I was stuck for something and I found pieces of this song, and so I had at it again. And it turned out that that was a good thing to do. This is called Never Been to Mexico. I never been to Mexico, never rode a rodeo across the desert south to Timbuktu.
that I'd get old. There is much that I will never do. Here and now I am an old man sitting in my chair, thinking about where I might have been. Yeah, I'm too soon old and too late smart. I'm looking for the light before the dark. I never sailed the Amazon, never ran a marathon, never found someone whose love was true. Never found, what did I never do? Never did what I was told. I was on that glory road where one day I met my Waterloo. Here and now I am an old man, and I'm sitting in my chair, thinking about where I might have been. Now I'm too soon old and too late smart. I'm looking for the light before the dark. And though my youth it was misspent, and all my sins I do repent, I hope it's not too late to make my mark. For as long as I am here, I might as well get off my chair and find the light before it gets too dark. Oh yeah, I'll find the light before it gets too dark.
Thank you so much, Steve, for your gift.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Yes, and oh, look, I have one of your CDs here. And thank you for your many gifts of songs and for your mentoring and all your stories as well. So
Okay.
I have to say goodbye and happy rest of anniversary celebration with all your family over there.
Yeah. Hi, Ellen.
And here comes Ellen.
Okay,
Thank you, Steve.
we're very glad to be
Hi,
here.
Ellen.
We're very glad to be here, and we had lots of help getting here.
Oh, good. Well, it's good to
And
see
we're very,
you.
I'm very happy to be here. And the first song I'm going to do is the one that Cheryl wanted me to do, and so I will. And it's called Love Spread Your Wings. And I think that I wrote it around the time that my husband, Alan, and I were dealing with the 7 children that we raised them all.
As a blended family.
It was a second marriage, and we had a full house. And so there were a lot of decisions to make and make everybody happy in the process. So I think that came out of this, and that I thought it would be wonderful to just go up somewhere up there and just have some quiet. So it's called Love Spread Your Wings. Love, spread your wings, come fly away with me in your dreams. behind your troubles and your cares. They don't need you. Soaring up above the fleeting world, floating just the way we want to be. You can take me anywhere, I'll follow to endless sea. Love, spread your wings, come take me to ye in the day. In this wondrous place, we can be so free together. I know we can be just who we want to be. Find a peace and joy and maybe start again. Again with no one but each other, you and I. Soaring up the sleeping world below. Can take me anywhere, I'll follow. Love, spread your wings, come fly away with me. Leave all behind together. Love, spread your wings.
Thank you, Ellen. Beautiful. I know that the time goes by so fast, 15 minutes. I want to provided opportunities for people to write songs. I think you hosted at least 8 open mics, maybe a lot more. You made the Woody Guthrie Ensemble happen and New England Folk Society's concert events. And you gave so many people their first start in sharing their art of songs or poetry or stories with your open mics. They really made a world of difference for so many people. Why did you do all that work? Was that important to you for gathering people to share art?
Well, I'm very pleased to be here. And when you asked me and gave me that set of things I could look at to get ideas,
Yeah.
I did go back to try to find out what was the earliest thing I remember about music, and which came. Well, I'm 82, and so it was just my first 2 years I couldn't remember, and my parents moved at that time after that. And then the first thing I remember is that my mother, who was an amazing woman, did many things, and she was a singer, a classical singer.
Norma
and
Farber.
yeah, Norma Farber, and she was singing classical music, and she had a man who would come and back her up, and it was classical music. And so when that happened, somebody would take me upstairs so I wouldn't be in the middle of the thing. And I found that I was listening to her music and somehow trying to pick up the music a little bit and understand what she was doing. And it kind of went on from there to many wonderful places with wonderful people. And I felt so lucky to know all the people I got to know through music. I was a teacher, and but all the programs that I got into one way or another. And I love it. I love it. I still love it. And I feel very lucky with Alan to do all the things that we do. The one I'm going to do now, many of you may be familiar with, and I decided that to do it a little better, that I would not play on this, but I will just sing. And the name of it is Will There Ever Be Peace? And I think that things are quite unusual right now for all of us. And that was the case at the time that I wrote this song, which I had three different parts to it. And I just feel that where we are now is giving us a lot else to think about. And so, I'm thinking maybe I'm going to have to go back and try to add a few more things or think about the song again. And I should say also that Cheryl has been just an amazing friend of mine for a long time. And so many people are lucky to know her and to do all that she does in this world. And
Well,
she
thank you.
inspires me.
Thank you, Ellen. We only have 4 more minutes and the show will end, so I'm wondering if you could sing us out. I appreciate all you said. I wish you could say so much more.
I will. All right.
And we might end, but I just want to thank you, Ellen, so much as you
Thank
sing us out.
Passed on from our fathers, passed on to our sons. We think we know the answer, what's right for everyone. Just a little more killing, well, things gonna be all right. Reach for a spirit of pace of peace. If we fight, we fight, we fight. I'll now sing the second verse. It's the same thing through history, just the same as real. There's never been an answer found, therefore on the battlefield. We all must look for peace when we're looking for the roar. Let's find a better way, solution to ride the war. In the last verse, we were put upon the earth, a glorious family. We find first search for city, and the light is hard to see. The bird of peace is waiting now. Give her wings to fly.
to spread her love o'er all the world and heal the bleeding sky. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you so much for all you do and for all you sing. Keep singing. Thank you, everyone,
Thank you.
tonight, and take care and have a good weekend. Thank